Today, we're going to be talking about Chattanooga versus Knoxville. So if you're interested in moving to Tennessee and you're trying to decide between these two cities or perhaps some others, then this video is for you. We're going to be diving into all of the details, so make sure to stick with us. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are publishing this as a podcast, so you can go check this out on Spotify, Apple, or over on Amazon Podcasts if you prefer an audio-only version. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into this comparison. So to begin with, I just want to give you a high-level overview of each city. So Chattanooga is the fourth largest city in the state of Tennessee, and it's kind of known for being at the intersection of four major interstates. So you've got Birmingham, Alabama to the south and Atlanta to the south, and then there are major interstates running up from those that cross through in Chattanooga. There is also Knoxville and Nashville to the north, and there are interstates that take you out from Chattanooga up to both of those cities. Chattanooga is known as the scenic city, and this is really due to the way that the Tennessee River winds through Chattanooga and then the mountains that surround the Chattanooga Valley. It is absolutely gorgeous in Chattanooga, and they have done an amazing job making the riverfront a really inviting and welcoming place for people to go hang out and spend time. Chattanooga is also home to a company called EPB that has had a major impact on the area because it was the first company to roll out citywide gig speed internet. So that has been a huge thing for Chattanooga over the years, is having very fast internet. You can now get speeds up to 25 gigabits a second down, which is ridiculous. One other thing about Chattanooga, it has been twice named Outdoor Magazine's best town ever, which says a lot because Outdoor Magazine looks at a bunch of different places. Switching gears to Knoxville, it's slightly larger and it's home to University of Tennessee at Knoxville. Now, UTK, or University of Tennessee at Knoxville, is the main UT campus, and it's the home of the Vols. So if you're into SEC sports, then Knoxville has that. They've got the Vols football team, Neyland Stadium. It seats 110,000 people, and this is a major attractant and a major part of the culture in Tennessee overall. Knoxville feels a little bit more spread out than Chattanooga, so it's this dense suburban area, and there is a growing downtown. Also, Knoxville is known as being the gateway to the Smoky Mountains. So if you're into places like Gatlinburg and getting up in the mountains and experiencing the change in fall colors, then this is a huge plus to living in Knoxville. Okay, let's jump into some of the demographics information for these cities. So in Chattanooga, the population is estimated to be right around 190,000 people, and this is within the city of Chattanooga. It's also estimated that Chattanooga's population is growing at just under 1% a year. Now, Knoxville's population within the city limits is 203,000, and it's estimated that it's growing at just over 1% a year. Chattanooga's median age is a little bit older than the median age in Knoxville. So here in Chattanooga, you've got a median age of 36.6. In Knoxville, it's about 33.3. The reason that you're seeing a younger median age in Knoxville is because they have UTK. There's a very large student population in Knoxville, and that brings the overall age down. To talk about the economy and job scene in both cities, in Chattanooga, the key industries would be automotive, with Volkswagen leading the charge with that, and Miller Industries. They're manufacturers of tow trucks. There is also a strong logistics scene in Chattanooga because Chattanooga is at the intersection of four major interstates. You have a lot of logistics that happen in the Chattanooga area. There's also an emerging tech and startup scene in Chattanooga. This is partially due to the high-speed internet access that we have here. And then there is a strong healthcare industry here as well. The Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, they handle a lot of the hydroelectric power and nuclear power in Tennessee. Now, in Knoxville, some of the major employers would be UTK, University of Tennessee at Knoxville. There's also Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and they do a lot of government research. I believe that they are partners with the Department of Energy. So if you're looking to do something that's a little bit more classified potentially and kind of interesting, then that could be a potential place to look into working. There's also a strong healthcare sector in Knoxville, and there is a strong retail sector in Knoxville as well. As of April 2025, the unemployment rate in Chattanooga stood right at 2.7%. In Knoxville, unemployment is slightly lower and job growth is slightly higher, actually. It's projected to grow a little bit more, especially based on the past 12 months. In Chattanooga, the estimated median household income stands somewhere around $61,000. Now, this varies depending on whose data you're looking at, so it might be a little bit higher, it might be a little bit lower. In Knoxville, the median household income is around $51,000, so it's a bit lower. Now, what's interesting is that the average salary in Chattanooga stands at $67,000 per year, and in Knoxville, the average salary stands at $69,000 per year. According to Google, employers in Knoxville tend to pay about 1% more for similar roles than they do in Chattanooga. Let's move on to cost of living. So the cost of living in Chattanooga is roughly 3% higher than Knoxville. And this is based on the overall cost of living index. So that means to match a $60,000 salary a year in Knoxville, you need to make about $61,900 in Chattanooga. Housing and groceries tend to be a little bit more affordable in Knoxville, whereas healthcare tends to be a bit more affordable in Chattanooga. And both of these cities majorly benefit from there being no state income tax, so you get to keep a little bit more of what you make at the end of the year. When it comes to the housing market so far in 2025, this is Q1 and Q2 of 2025, the median home sale price in Chattanooga has been between $300,000 and $332,000. The median home sale price in Knoxville has been between $380,000 and $408,000 so far in 2025. This range is based on a few sources. That's why it's not just one solid number. It's based on multiple sources and kind of combining those. What's interesting is that prices in Chattanooga have been increasing by about 2% year over year. Prices in Knoxville have been increasing by about 5% year over year. Let's talk about rent a little bit. So the median rent in Chattanooga for a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment is between $1,200 and $1,500 a month. In Knoxville, the range is slightly wider. You've got about $1,100 on the low end, all the way up to $1,500 on the high end for a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment. If you're wondering about the market conditions, both markets are considered sellers markets still, but they're trending towards more balance. Now, in Knoxville, it would be much more close to a seller's market because there's still less than 2 months of inventory on market. So this just means that there are more people that are trying to buy in the Knoxville area than there are people trying to sell in the Knoxville area. So that gives sellers a little bit more power when it comes to negotiating and getting a better price for their home. Now, this is also the same in Chattanooga, but the markets are shifting and things are becoming more balanced where both buyers and sellers have a fairly similar amount of negotiating power. So if you're looking to invest in either of these areas, these are kind of the strong investment markets right now. In Chattanooga, it would be South Side and North Shore when you're thinking of the immediate Chattanooga area. Both markets are very hot and there's a lot of demand to live in those areas. Now in Knoxville, the really strong investment opportunities would be surrounding UTK because there's a lot of demand for housing from the student population there. Let's talk just a little bit about education. So in Chattanooga, you're part of the Hamilton County school system. In Knoxville, you're part of the Knox County school system. There's a wide variety of school ratings across both of these counties. So if you want to know more, I would encourage you to look at greatschools.org and see how schools stack up between these two areas. Now, in terms of private school options, some of the notable ones in Chattanooga would be Baylor, McCallie, GPS, and there are a bunch of Christian schools in the Chattanooga area. In terms of Knoxville, some of the popular private options are Webb, Knoxville Catholic, CAK, and the Episcopal school there. And then when it comes to higher education, Chattanooga is home to University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, which is UT's campus here. There's also some state community colleges, and there are a few private universities in the area as well. When it comes to Knoxville, there are also some private universities. As I mentioned a few times in this video, UTK is there, University of Tennessee at Knoxville, and this is the flagship University of Tennessee school. When it comes to healthcare, both of these cities have great healthcare options. In Chattanooga, there are 3 main systems. There is CHI Memorial, there is Park Ridge, and there is Erlanger. Now, Erlanger is probably the flagship hospital in Chattanooga. It does have a level 1 trauma center, and you will frequently see helicopters coming in, airlifting people to that hospital because it's one of the more capable hospitals in the area. In Knoxville, there is UT Medical Center, so this is also a level 1 trauma hospital, and it is a teaching hospital. In addition, there is Covenant, Tenova, and Park West. Let's get into the lifestyle and recreation that you'll experience in both of these cities. So Chattanooga is known for being really walkable, for being bike friendly, and for having a wonderful riverfront. It's also got this mixed use downtown where there's a lot of commercial amenities on the main level of a building, and then you'll have apartments above that. I think the best way to describe Knoxville is that it's got this great suburban fabric with an expanding downtown. Hey, really quick, if you're thinking about moving to the Tennessee area and you need help finding the perfect home, I'd love to help you. You can reach out to me directly via my cell phone. You can call or text, shoot me an email, or go to my website and book a meeting with me. All right, back to the video. When it comes to arts and culture in Chattanooga, you've got the Tennessee Aquarium, the Hunter Museum, the Tivoli Theater, the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Auditorium. In Knoxville, you've got the Tennessee Theater, you've got KMA, the Big Ears Festival, and there's a really strong artisan community. You're also very close to the Smoky Mountains, and there's all kinds of things in the arts that are over in the Smokies. When it comes to dining, Chattanooga is working really hard to bring in some trend-focused, really wonderful places to eat. There's a lot of international flavors, and farm to table is becoming quite popular. In Knoxville, you have a lot of Southern staples. There's some great food, some great places to go, and there's some modern deli and Mediterranean standouts. When it comes to things to do in the outdoors, you have more immediate access to the outdoors in Chattanooga, whereas in Knoxville, it's a little bit further out. So in Chattanooga, some of the more popular things to do would be rock climbing, trail running, mountain biking. There's also a pretty big water sports scene because the Tennessee River is right there. And then we have Harrison Bay, not too far from downtown Chattanooga. So if you're into wake surfing, wakeboarding, all those sorts of things, or rowing or kayaking, those are all possible in Chattanooga. Now, in Knoxville, on the other hand, you do have a 50-mile urban wilderness area. The Tennessee River also runs through there, so waterfront activities are possible too. And then you're about 45 minutes to an hour from the Smoky Mountains, where there is tons to do outdoors. So Knoxville itself isn't as centered on the outdoors, but there are lots of things that you can do in the outdoors if you live in Knoxville. It just might be a bit further of a drive. Let's shift gears a little bit to transportation. So both Knoxville and Chattanooga have some public transport options, but for the most part, they're going to be vehicle dependent cities. You're gonna wanna have a vehicle unless you live in the downtown area, and most of what you can do is within a walkable area. In Chattanooga, there is the CARTA bus system. I believe there are 15 routes, and in the downtown area, there is a free shuttle bus. In Knoxville, you have the KAT system. There are 20 routes, and it's got city-wide coverage. Comparing Knoxville and Chattanooga's airports, Chattanooga's airport is a little bit smaller. They do have plans to expand it. There are a few nonstop flights, so you can get to some larger cities like Atlanta, Chicago, New York, Vegas, a couple of cities in Florida. So there are some direct flights out of Chattanooga, but for the most part, it's a pretty small airport. Knoxville is a little bit bigger. There are over 20 nonstop destinations out of Knoxville, and they also offer TSA PreCheck. I don't believe that there's any difference for having TSA PreCheck in Chattanooga. You might get through line a little bit faster. Sometimes they might have a line open just for that, but for the most part, it's a small enough airport that doesn't make a huge difference. The average commute time for people in Chattanooga is about 18.7 minutes. The average commute time in Knoxville is closer to 22 minutes. Now, something that really impacts commutes in Knoxville is UTK, especially on game days. When it's game day and there's 110,000 people trying to be at Neyland Stadium, traffic is crazy. I mean, it can be absolutely insane through there. I have yet to go to a game at Neyland Stadium, but I've driven through Knoxville on game day before, and it is crazy. Both cities have a relatively similar climate. It's pretty humid in the summers, and then you've got fairly mild winters. There's limited snowfall. You've got roughly 200 days of sunshine per year in both of these cities. Let's really quick go through the pros and cons of both Chattanooga and Knoxville. The pros for Chattanooga would be that the city is really integrated with the outdoors. There's a lot of wonderful things to do in the outdoors in Chattanooga itself. It also has a very revitalized and walkable core. There's a great food and art scene in Chattanooga. You've got really fast internet, and there's a lot of growing diversity in the Chattanooga area. The cons would be that it's a slightly higher cost of living in Chattanooga with a slightly lower overall pay. You've also got a much smaller airport in Chattanooga. So for Knoxville, the main pros would be that there's a slightly lower cost of living. You've got UTK's energy and the jobs that puts out into the economy. There is a larger airport. You're close to the Smoky Mountains, and there's a strong arts culture there. The big cons for Knoxville would be that you've got quite a bit more traffic than you do in Chattanooga, especially on game day. The outdoor access and things to do are a lot more limited than in Chattanooga, especially right there in the downtown area. And another con is that there's a bit less diversity overall in the Knoxville area. So who should choose which city? Well, if you're an outdoors enthusiast, then Chattanooga probably makes sense for you. If you're budget focused, maybe just starting your family, then Knoxville could be a better option. If you're in tech or if you work remote and you're just wanting to be in a walkable area where you can get out and about easily, then Chattanooga is probably the better option. If you want to do research or work for a large government entity, or if you're just a college sports enthusiast, then Knoxville could be a better option. So that is going to be it for this one. If you're watching this over on YouTube and you got value from this, YouTube thinks you might like these other videos here. I make a lot of content on what it's like to live in Tennessee, specifically Chattanooga. That's my main focus. So go ahead and check those out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.